Hello Year 10, it's Miss Bond here. I will be looking at question 3 today for today's lesson. We are following on from the lessons you've done with Miss Crowhurst for question 1 and question 2 on your language paper 2. Question 3 usually looks like this. You now need to refer only to source B from lines 18 to 25. So you'll only be referring to one source in question 3 as opposed to question 2 when you're looking at both. And you'll be looking at a specific part of that text. So the next part of the question, how does the writer use language to describe the surfers and the sea? It's worth 12 marks. First of all, I want you to break down the question. So read the question again carefully and then circle the command words as you've done before with the 2 previous questions and underline the topic words in that question. I'll just give you a minute there, just pause the video while you do that. So what is the writer actually asking us to do here? We've got 12 marks, which is the highest so far. So question 1 was 4, question 2 was 8 marks. Now we've got a 12-mark question. What are they asking us to do here? How does the writer use language? That's our command word, how. So similar to our language paper 1, question 2, we're being asked to look at how the writer has used language here. In a how question, we're usually looking at the techniques the writer has used to achieve their purpose here. The surfers and the sea, the topic words here, these are the things we're looking at, the surfers and the sea. So usually this part of the question will change depending on what the purpose of the text is that we're looking at. And the second thing we're looking at is the language. How's the writer used the language to describe that? So we're looking at including quotes or technical terms to back up our opinion of what we're including in this question. We want to include as many words and phrases, features and techniques as we can in this question to get as many marks as possible. So this question's worth 12 marks. What does that imply about how detailed your response should be? I would say approximately for this question, you should be aiming to spend about a mark a minute. So about 12 marks on this question. Possibly 2 to 3 paragraphs, depending on how quickly you can write. If you can get in 2 very detailed paragraphs for this question, that would be excellent. Before we zoom in on that source text from line 18 to 25, let's look at these 3 words. Exultant means triumphantly happy, so you're happy with something that you've done. Engulfment means to be swallowed up or immersed in something, and exploits is a bold or a daring feat. So just if you have got your text there, if you can just highlight those words and write down the meaning for them, or write it on your piece of paper or your document, whatever you're using to do this, so you know the 3 definitions of these words before we move on. Just pause the video here while you do that. So we're looking at source B, the same source you used for question 2 yesterday with Miss Crowhurst. As we are reading through, I want you to underline or highlight any powerful quotes that describe the sea and the surfers. While you're looking, if you can challenge yourself, can you find any examples of the devices below? So can you find any personification, any imagery, any similes, or any facts that have been listed in there? I'm just going to read it. I want you to be reading along with me and then annotating it if you've got the text in front of you, or you can be writing notes if you're writing on a document or on a piece of paper. So They rode in majestically, always just ahead of the breaker, carried shorewards by its mighty impulse at the rate of 40 miles an hour, as the more daring riders knelt and even stood on their surfboards, waving their arms and uttering exultant cries. They were always apparently on the verge of engulfment by the fierce breaker, whose towering white crest was ever above and just behind them. But just as one expected to see them dashed to pieces, they either waded quietly ashore, or sliding off their boards, dived under the surf, and were next seen far out at sea as a number of heads bobbing about like corks in smooth water, preparing for fresh exploits. So can you find any examples, and can you underline or highlight any powerful quotes that describe the sea and the surfers? Pause the video there for a minute while you do that. Let's look at one of the quotes together from that section. So the fierce breaker whose towering white crest, we're just going to look at that small quote and talk about how we could use this and how we could develop this and really pick this quote apart to use for one of our paragraphs of question 3. So the fierce breaker, let's start with that first word, fierce. What are the connotations of it? What word type is it? Can we identify the word type and then talk about the connotation? So for fierce here, we can see it's a very aggressive adjective, the word fierce. The connotations for me would suggest that it's quite dangerous, aggressive, quite intense, very strong wave that's coming. What does this quote imply? For me, this quote implies, well, we could use the connotations here that we've done about the sea, how powerful it is. It's quite intimidating. It's quite overwhelming, maybe suggesting it's quite dangerous for the surfers here. The impact for me that the language has on me as a reader is maybe to highlight how brave the surfers are in this situation, because they're in quite a dangerous situation. We are expecting that maybe they're putting their lives at risk, and maybe some of them aren't going to reappear, but it shows that they do. So it's quite exhilarating for these surfers. It's the imagery here that has been created is highlighting the bravery of the surfers and the danger of the sea. I want you to do this for 2 quotes on your own, so you can choose 2 of the quotes below and explode them just like we've done. So think about the connotations, what are the implications of it, what is the impact on the reader is very important, because that's what you're going to be doing in your P paragraph, and any methods or devices you can find in that quote. So we have, at the rate of 40 miles an hour, they rode in majestically, more daring riders knelt and even stood, heads bobbing about like corks in smooth water, and preparing for fresh exploits. Choose 2 of those quotes, and on your piece of paper or your document, do a word explosion for both of those. Pause the video here. Okay, so this is how you would usually structure your answer for question 3, is to write out a piece paragraph. So I want you to, for this section only, on source B, line 18 to 25, write 2 to 3 paragraphs using this here on the screen to help you to answer the question, how does the writer use language to describe the surfers and the sea? So remember, it's worth 12 marks. You should spend in the exam about 12 minutes on it. Now in lesson, obviously, you can spend a little bit longer. As time goes by, you'll get that time down. So for your points, you're going to talk about what idea or impression of the sea or the surfers does the writer present, make your clear point here, and then you're going to find evidence to back it up. If you try and embed the evidence, that would be even better, because then you can link your evidence and explore together. So for example, the writer uses the word to imply and then you're embedding evidence and explore together. Then you're going to zoom in, find your device or your method. What else does it suggest? On your Explorer as well, I want you to try and challenge yourself to use at least 15 words, maybe more, to explore what this language implies. So don't just give us a basic 5-word answer. Try and really develop that a lot. Use the connotations. What does the language imply here? Use the word because in your answers. Then you're going to move to your zoom in, identify the device and what it suggests, and then the effect on the reader. So what does the language make the reader understand or imagine or feel? You can talk about it personally in your opinion, what the effect is on you or in general as a reader. Aim for 2 to 3 paragraphs on this. Pause the video here while you write your paragraphs. For the final section of this lesson, I just want you to do a quick self-assessment on your piece paragraphs you've just written. So if you're doing it on a Word document, you can put them in different colours or underline them in different ways, or if you're doing it on a piece of paper, circle every time you've used the word writer or reader in your piece paragraphs. Underline where you've given an explanation or your zoom in that is 15 words or more. Put a box around where you explore a method or a device that the writer has used, and you can do a little squiggle under where you fully explore the effect on the reader. So these 4 steps should really help you clearly identify how you've structured your piece paragraph. Have you included everything you needed to? Once you've done that, I want you to give yourself a medal and a mission from the following. So your medal could be you have used the words writer and reader, you've made detailed inferences, you have explored the methods, and you've explored the effect on the reader. A mission could be something that you need to improve. Use the word writer and reader more often. You need to make your inferences 15 words or more. You might need to mention methods that the writer has used or explore the effect on the reader. So choose one medal from the left and one mission on the right to give yourself based on your piece paragraphs. Once you've done all of that, you can email your work to your English teacher. Have a lovely day. Bye.